Hi, everybody. I'm Phil Hawkins, and for the last 13 years or so, I've been leading landscape photography workshops in Yosemite National Park, also in other parts of the country and Italy as well. What I'd like to do this afternoon is show you how to do black and white conversions in Photoshop in landscape photography. And strangely enough, the first piece of advice I have in that regard is to slightly oversaturate your colors. That's right. Let's take a look at the four images we have here open in Photoshop. We have this one of three brothers along the Merced River in Yosemite Valley. Also, some aspens in the fall colors near the Maroon Bells area in Colorado. And then we have this image of El Capitan from Valley View in Yosemite National Park. And then this, of course, is Yosemite Falls from a flooded meadow taken in 2013. So we're going to look at all four of these images and see how the best approach to black and white would be on these. The first thing you would notice about this image is that obviously it has some foliage over here that's got fall colors on it. And so if we go up to Image, Adjustments, Black and White, and you're going to do this every time. This is the standard procedure in Photoshop for converting black and white images. Let me show you how not to do it, okay? When you take the saturation slider and go all the way to there, yeah, it's black and white, but that's all it is. You can't do anything with it to adjust the luminosity in different areas of the image. All right, so we're going to take this back to 0, just like that. Hit cancel. Now we're going to go Image, Adjustments, Black and White, and you'll notice the color bands that we have here on the black and white conversion panel. And if you look at the reds, you grab the reds and give it a slide, you can see the reaction. So anything that was red in the color photograph is going to be adjusted with the red slider. Now let's go to the yellow slider. And you can see, I think, the concept behind this slider. Now there's very little in the way of cyan or blue or magenta in this image. So we're primarily going to be using the greens, yellows, and reds. Now, obviously all of this is subjective, but I want to add things to the image as much as I possibly can. So I'm going to grab the yellow slider and go a little bit to the right and see how it brings out the detail in those areas of the images. It gives the image more subject matter, makes it more interesting. And then we adjust the reds if you want to do that. And then, of course, bring the greens up if you like that effect. Now, the flip side to that coin is that it's really nice, the three brothers right here with the clouds and everything, that's really nice. So if you want to de-emphasize the foreground, then you can come way dark like this, or darker. And as I said, it's all subjective. There's no right or wrong way to do it, but those are your options in Photoshop. Now, I would prefer, and this is only my personal preference, that we make those areas lighter, because I think it just adds to the image to have those portions of the scene illuminated. Now you can go back later and add contrast and that sort of thing, but as far as the actual luminosity levels in the different areas of this image, I think that works really, really well. All right, I'm going to go ahead and hit OK. Let's go to the next image, and the obvious thing here is we got some blues, we got some reds, and we got some yellows. We got it all in this image. Let's look at how different colors can be adjusted. We go to Image, Adjustments, Black and White, and that's the standard adjustment. Kind of flat, kind of nothing. But if we take the yellows, and I think you know exactly what's going to happen, you move this to the right, and we brighten the trees, obviously, but also just a little bit on these rocks. Now, if I want to take this red slider, I go to the right, or I can go to the left and de-emphasize the mountain and emphasize the trees. You see? Now, there's not a whole lot of green in this. One word of advice on this color slider, strangely enough, if you get the green in trees and move this, very little happens. If you want to adjust a green color in an image, especially trees, use the yellow slider. Just one of the weird things about Photoshop. Now we do have some blue and cyan in this image, so look what happens when we go to the left. We can darken that sky. And then if we want to re-emphasize the mountains, we can bring those mountains up. So a completely different approach to black and white conversions with this image. Let's reverse things. Let's go real bright on the sky. And we'll go darker on these trees. And let's go dark on the mountains. So, just a couple of different ways to approach this image. We'll go ahead and hit OK. Now we're going to go to the next one. We've got a lot of blues and a lot of dark areas in this image. So let's first go through, we're going to do something before we do the black and white conversion. Go Image, Adjustments, or rather let's go Filter, Camera Raw Filter. And then when we get to Adobe Camera Raw, what we're going to do is adjust those darker areas of the image, and bring those shadows up just a little bit. See what happens when we do that. Yeah, bring those blacks up, hit OK. Now we're going to go ahead and go Image, Adjustments, Black and White, and we'll get that panel. Now we can come in with the yellow slider, move to the right, and there we have a whole brand new area of the image that frames El Capitan right there. We take the reds, move it to the right, and we just accentuate the process. The greens, very little is going to react. Maybe this tree right here. But other than that, the greens really aren't doing anything. Cyans, however, watch this. We go to the left, and not much. Blues, however, now we're getting some reaction out of the blues. And if you want to bring this way down, then you've got a whole brand new tone to the image. But look at the noise that you introduce when you do that. So the extreme adjustments don't work. Less is more on this stuff. So just be careful how you adjust this. Less is more. I kind of like that actually, because when you pull it over, it kind of erases some of the texture in the cloud. So I'll just bring it over just a little bit. There's other things that we can do that are better to darken the sky. And in the cyans, not much there. I thought there would be, but there's not. Magenta, we can bring the magenta down. So that's the adjustment that I would do on that image. And then our last image is one of Yosemite Valley in 2017 when we had all that rain and then the runoff was just tremendous. So all these meadows were flooded. And these scenes don't exist anymore because unless we get another flooding situation like we had last spring or in 2017, then these are exclusive images, which I kind of like. But I think we see now the obvious areas we're going to work on. We have got sky, we've got rock, and we've got trees here. So let's go to Image, Adjustments, Black and White. And we'll take the blues and go to the left, and you can see what's going to happen with that. Darkens the skies. And then we take these yellows and come up, and we see that those trees are going to jump in your lap. And I like that effect. And let's see what happens with the reds. And let's darken the reds because primarily what's responding to the red slider is this area here, the rock face itself. And I want to de-emphasize that because the trees, the reflection, the water, and the waterfall itself is the primary subject matter of this image. So we can go down and then bring this up. See what happens with the greens. There we did get a good response on the greens this time. And I'll leave that up. And the blues and the cyans. Let's see what happens with the magentas. A little bit in the rocks, but not a whole lot of magenta in this image. So there you have it. 4 different ways to do black and white conversions in landscape photography in Photoshop.